for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back.
This beat just reminds me of old school when they're picking guys up.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time.
is.
It's go time.
It's exactly, there are certain songs that, like, there are.
Driving around in the van.
It's exactly what you picture is that song. And it might be a great song, won't matter. If it was from a movie that you hated or loved,
it reminds you of that.
It has a different feel to it. So there
Master
you go.
of Puppets, Metallica.
Is Slash still with us?
Jeez.
Is it a good time for a quiz? Hey, Alex, what band is Slash actually in? You've named every band he's not in.
Listen,
which band was he actually in?
Come on, I've owned guns and I've also bought roses.
There
for
you
people,
go.
All right, I'm just telling you that there are a lot of people who are like, because they will. All these bands kick around and every one of these guys get around and they're 77 years old. And then they're all.
How old is Kiss? Do we know their actual age?
I think they've all passed. I think that none of them are longer with us.
Rest in peace, Gene Simmons. Wait a minute.
Oh, man. I don't think. Yeah, they're grandkids.
James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett. Of course, that's who you just heard.
Right.
With Metallica. They're in their 60s.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And Steve Tyler's like 8. It's definitely 80. Has to be.
Well, his lips aren't.
Most of his face is not.
Those are pretty young.
His hair is from like yesterday.
That face is pretty young, body not so much.
Joining us on the program right now as we get you ready for the more NFL draft preview, our NFL draft preview show brought to you by Manuel Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Our show is always brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, nutritious boost. We've had Luke Easterling on the program quite often when we talk about NFL stuff and NFL draft especially. And let's kick things off with the cut as we always do right here at the top of the show.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The cut, as always, brought to you right now by your Doug Smith dealerships. That's right. Incredible selections of Kias, Subarus, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, Ram. Doug Smith dealerships in American Fork and Spanish Fork. Great service starts with great know-how. Nobody knows like Doug. Hey, Doug. There you go. I gave you the voice. I know you
that
guys
was good.
It
was missing for 3 weeks.
I tried to fill your shoes for 3 weeks.
Did you try to? You're like, hello, Douglas.
I was so bad.
There was a percentage, JJ. It was about 25%.
It was not consistent, that's for sure.
All right. Luke Easterling, Athlon Sports, joining us here as we get you ready for this NFL draft. Luke, how's it going, man? This is a busy time of year for you.
Oh, is it? Is there a lot going on this week? I'm not sure. No, man. It's my Christmas. It's a lot of work, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it.
Yeah. So let's dig into this a little bit, and I think the big question everyone's going to be talking about is which quarterbacks are and when are they going to go?
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know what you're hearing at this point, but what order do you think that is, or what order do you think it should be?
Yeah, I mean, those are two very different things. So I think I'm obviously very confident about Caleb Williams at Chicago at 1. That's the easy one. Everybody will get one pick right in their mock drafts at least this year. At number 2, it still feels like Jaden Daniels. I don't know that it's nearly as much of a sure thing as Caleb Williams, but it still feels like that's the favorite to go to, and that's who I would pick too. I would take him if I were Washington there. It's kind of splitting hairs between him and Drake May, I think, but I would lean towards Jaden Daniels. I think Drake May probably goes 3. I know there's a little bit of buzz here and there about New England maybe being willing to move down, but I think it would take a haul to get them out of that pick. And I think they take whoever Washington doesn't, whether it's Daniels or May, whoever the other one is. I think they take him there. And then the conversation starts at 4, right? That's where if you love J.J. McCarthy enough, that's where you're going to have to start calling to get up to get him. Is Arizona at 4, Chargers at 5, because I think the Giants could be in on that. If he's there, I think the Giants might be trying to move up to get their own quarterback and view Daniel Jones maybe as a little bit of a sunk cost at this point. And so, there's so many teams. There's Minnesota, there's Denver, there's Vegas. that could be in on whoever that fourth quarterback is. For me, I mean, all three of those top guys that I mentioned, Williams, Daniels, and May, are top 10 prospects overall on my board. The next guy on my board as a quarterback is Michael Penix Jr., and he's at 28. J.J. McCarthy at 30, and then Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler are actually kind of right next to each other down in the 60s. So that's kind of how I view the class in a vacuum. Obviously, I know that's not how it's going to play out in the draft on Thursday night, but I would not be surprised if we see 6 quarterbacks in the first round. I think those top 4 guys, McCarthy being the fourth, will come off the board in the top 10 somewhere. And then the interesting thing will be who dips in how early. I'm looking at Denver and I'm looking at Vegas. Do they trade back into the first round to get Nix and or Penix? And I think those will be the 5th and 6th guys.
See, and that's what I thought. I was going to ask you who the most likely team was to say, you know what, we're going to move it up. We're going to start trading that. We're going to start making some moves and making it happen. So what is we've had this discussion a lot on our show because JJ's got a Heisman vote, and he put Michael Penix Jr. Above Bo Nix on his Heisman, vote, and I didn't disagree with him because I grew up a Washington Huskies fan, so I was like, I'll absolutely deal with that. But let's talk about the difference between like Caleb Williams to a Jaden Daniels, a Drake May, and then to Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr.
So I think it's just in terms of potential and upside. I think that you have rare physical traits and abilities with each of those top 3 guys that they really haven't even maxed out at this point at even the college level. I think you look at the supporting casts that they all had to work with, particularly the defenses they all had to play with. I think Caleb Williams was like undefeated or only lost 1 game when USC gave up fewer than 35 points. And so when you match that with their overall record, you're thinking, wow, that would have been a different story if he had some defense there. But, I think when you look outside those top 3, there are reasons why the other guys aren't in that range necessarily. Obviously with Penix, it's easy, right? He's got, the injury history from Indiana, which I think will work against him. And the fact that he's, going to be a 24-year-old rookie as will Bo Nix. So the rub there is you're getting an older guy. You're getting a guy that may not have as much upside, but you're getting a guy that has played a ton of football. Both of those guys, Nix and Penix, have started so many games at the highest level of college football and in multiple conferences. They've done it in the Big Ten and the Pac-12 with Penix. They've done it in the SEC and the Pac-12 if you're Bo Nix. And so I think that will appeal to certain teams as well. I think it's just a matter of they don't quite have the same potential for certain reasons. Again, part of it is the age thing, and part of it is just the physical tools. But Nix and Penix have different things that they bring to the table in terms of experience that I think will still get them drafted in the first round because they still have enough of the physical ability. I think they're both great athletes. I think they're both can do different things as a passer. I think of Penix more of a vertical passer, and I think of Bo Nix more as a horizontal passer in terms of efficiency and accuracy across the field. And so depending on what you want your quarterback to do in your offense, those guys will appeal to you for different reasons. But that's why the gap is there to me.
Hey, Luke, this is Sly here. I got a question about the age thing, kind of a two-part question. Why is the age such a difference? You want a veteran quarterback, essentially, right? Some of these younger guys, you want to invest in these young guys, but these quarterbacks are lasting until they're 45 now. Tom Brady's setting the stage, Aaron Rodgers following right behind him. If you got a good quarterback, he's going to be there for 15, 20 years. So, taking him right now, do you want success now? What is the reason for the age being a knock?
Well, and I think, to your point, I think it's going to be less of a knock this year, which is why I think those guys will still go in the first round. Because in any other year, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, if you told me you had a couple of 24-year-old quarterbacks and one of them had 4 season-ending injuries, we're not having a conversation about that guy going in the first round at all. I don't give a damn what he did in college. Like that, we're just not doing that. And so I think the difference is now exactly what you said. Maybe the only position where you can get away with this nowadays, but guys are taking care of their bodies. They're understanding how to play the game in a way that protects them. The game itself and the way the rules are protecting them in a lot of ways. And I think you're seeing more and more guys playing into their mid and late 30s. And so I do think it changes the conversation of quarterback. I don't think it's that way for every other position. But that's why I think those guys will still go in the first round, because you're right. I think about a guy like Sean Payton. Does Sean Payton really want to break in a 21-year-old very inexperienced, quarterback prospect, or does he want the guy who has literally played more college football games than any other human being in the history of the sport, like Bo Nix, who is accurate, efficient, can distribute the ball in a very effective way, and has seen everything when you've started 60-plus games at the highest level of college football. And so I think the fit will be important there, but I completely agree with you that it's less of an issue than it ever has been.
This quarterback class has the potential to be a great class, but so does this receiver class. In fact, this receiver class could be even better than the quarterbacks. Just how good is it? And just as I asked you before, how do you see that playing out with the order of guys, and who are those first-round guys?
I really try not to be the hype guy and go full over hyperbole all the time. But man, I've been doing this for a long, long time, and it's the best one I've ever seen. It really is, and it's for two reasons. One, you have three absolutely elite guys at the top. They are literally my final big board, which is on athlonsports.com right now. They are the top three players in the draft overall, the top three wide receivers. So you've got Marvin Harrison Jr. at 1. I have Rome Odunze at 2 and Malik Neighbors at 3, ahead of every other person in this draft at every other position. That's what I think of them, just those three. So in any other draft class, if the other two guys weren't there, they would probably be the best player in the draft and easily the number one wide receiver, easy top 5 overall pick. And they're all three at the top of this class. And then you go to the next tier, and there are literally 8 to 12 guys that could go in any order, and I'd be fine with it. Both the guys from Texas, A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, Keon Coleman from Florida State, you got Ladd McConkey from Georgia, Troy Franklin from Oregon. So many guys in that next tier. Xavier Leggett from South Carolina, Jalen Polk, the other Washington receiver, and then the other Washington receiver, Jalen McMillan, is in there as well. There's again, 8, 10, 12, 15. You can keep stretching it on. Ricky Pearsall from Florida. That second tier is so loaded that literally every time I do a mock draft, I get to the third or fourth round, and I'm like, how in the world
is this guy this low?
These three wide receivers here, I can't put them all in the second round. They can't all fit.
Right.
There's only 32 picks around. So I'm with you, man. This receiver class is ridiculous, and I think all three of those top guys go top 10. And whoever the third one is going to be just a ridiculous steal. If they don't all go top 5, it's going to be a bargain. And we know they're not, because the quarterbacks are going to go up that high. So I think whoever that third guy is, whether it's Odunze or Neighbors, if he's there at 7 or 8, I would not be surprised to see some movement, see some teams, maybe Jacksonville at 17, somebody trying to get up into the top 10 to get a guy who normally would go maybe 2 or 3 overall, because he's still on the board, just because there's not enough picks for as many receivers as we have.
Luke Easterling, Athlon Sports. He's your draft expert for Athlon. And here's one of the questions I have, because from a local standpoint, at least the local collegiate guys, we have a handful of guys who, prepped here, and there's going to be some guys that go a little bit earlier. But on your list of the guys who played at the local universities, you got Kingsley Suamataia going in the second round. And after that, Cole Bishop, I think, is the 81st pick for you, and then Jonah Ellis at the 103rd pick. Now, you do your mock drafts. I think this is a good way to do it. You do 4 rounds, because it's at some point, there's something interesting between 4 and 7 that happens too. But do you have anybody else that may sneak in from a local standpoint, that could sneak in from the state of Utah, that prepped or that went to college here?
Yeah, I don't know where he goes, but outside of those guys, the guy that really intrigues me is Sion Vaki. I think that he's a guy that not just the versatility in terms of what he was asked to do. Injuries popped up, and he played on both sides of the ball. But if you look at the way the return rules are changing this year, the kickoff rules are changing in a way that I really think teams are going to prioritize having a player who has the instincts and awareness to maximize the ability to make big plays on the new kickoffs. And I think he brings that to the table. And so in terms of his versatility, obviously talk to any NFL GM or head coach, and they'll tell you what a stress it is to try to find the right 53 and then the right 46 on game day, because you have to guard against injuries. You have to do all these different things. So if you have a guy on your roster that can do all the different things that he can do, play running back if you need him to, play safety if you need him to, and return kicks and punts, I think that makes you invaluable, because you can take up 3 guys worth of roles on one roster spot and free you up to have an extra offensive lineman, an extra linebacker for special teams, an extra DB, or an emergency quarterback, or what have you. And I think that a guy like that will have a lot of value. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes off the board earlier. Probably still on day 3 somewhere, but a little bit earlier than a lot of people think.
Kingsley Suamataia, offensive tackle out of BYU. cousin of Penei Sewell, and I think there's some comparisons there because of that. Where are you hearing on him? What is his range?
Well, I mean, honestly, I'll defer to Tom Pelissero from NFL Network, who I just saw today, kind of mentioned him as a potential late sneak into the first round type of guy. And honestly, man, like one of my mentors in this business, Neil Coulong, who was on my boss of mine for a long time, he always used to say, there are only so many human beings walking the planet that are that large and can move like that, and that definitely applies to Kingsley Suamataia, because that's what he brings to the table. The size, the athleticism, the power. I think he can play either tackle spot. And so when you start to check all of those boxes and you look on the back end of the first round, I'm looking at Kansas City at 32. I'm looking at San Francisco at 31. KC needs a left tackle. San Francisco needs a right tackle. Both of those teams can drop him right into the starting lineup. A very experienced guy. Again, in the family, it runs in the family. Obviously, the talent does. But the size, the athleticism, the physicality, the experience, the mental side of the game, I think he checks all those boxes. And again, there's only so many people in the world that can do that at that size, and he's one of them.
One more guy I want to throw your way, Jackson Powers Johnson, Corner Canyon High School here in Draper, Utah. Turd Ferguson, as he likes to be referred to now.
Best story of the entire draft.
Isn't it great?
Absolutely. Stock up as soon as I heard him say that. I was like, oh, well, first round grade.
You know what? Because things it can get a little mundane, I feel like, in your gig, Luke. You can be like, oh, lots of numbers to break down. If you make a Turd Ferguson joke, you're going to move up the board. It takes a little bit to do it.
Easy, no question.
He doesn't need the help, though. I think he might be a first-round pick. What do you think about him, and what makes him that high of a prospect?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you this. I'm down here in the Tampa area. I'm a lifelong Bucs fan. Not very quiet about that, but I try to be as unbiased as I can when it comes to the draft analysis. And I'll tell you what, I want him in pewter very, very badly because the Bucs are sitting at 26. And with what they lost when Ryan Jensen had that devastating knee injury 2 years ago that would eventually cost him the rest of his career, they miss that presence at that position. I know the old days of all centers are not important and you can get them later, and that's all out the window because you see what an impact these guys are making. And it's about two things. It's about setting a tone for the entire offensive line that, and I'm going to try not to use any foul language, but like that personality that you have to have in that unit, that you're going to play physical, you're going to punish the other team in the trenches, you're going to play through the echo of the whistle, as they like to say. Ryan Jensen always used to say that. But you're going to have a bad time going up against my center and my offensive line. And that center has to set that tone. That's what Ryan Jensen did. And I think that's what Jackson Powers Johnson does as well. He's a great athlete. He's a really big physical guy as well. And he's so smart. So much of being able to play center at a high level in the NFL happens between the ears because you have got to get your quarterback in the right protections. You've got to get everybody understanding their assignments with all the stunts and twists and extra rushers that are coming and understanding who you're picking up if so-and-so goes and they bring all those extra rushers, but then they back out. And you've got to be on the same page with your quarterback with all of that stuff. And so he brings all the mental and the physical side of things all together. Again, he did get a first-round grade from me, and I would love to see him snapping the ball to Baker Mayfield down here in Tampa. I don't think he gets out of the first round, and he shouldn't.
Dang, yeah, get those pancakes. JP loves all of those pancakes.
I'll cook them myself if he ends up in Tampa. Right? I will make him some pancakes.
Banana, I heard he likes the banana nut pancakes.
That's fine. I do banana Foster pancakes. I'll make it for him. That's fine.
Money. My last question goes to kind of the trend of the last couple of years. It seems like every single year we're setting records with the number of trades within the draft. Do you see that kind of being something similar this year? And why has that been like the trend these last couple of years? There's a lot of guys trading up and trading down in the draft.
I think honestly, it's a sign that teams have a great working relationship with one another. I think it's a great example of I understand who I'm working with in these other clubs. We have certain parameters, and we understand what we need. We understand what they're looking for, and I think it speaks to teams learning how to make that work in a really efficient way. And I think also we've just had some really talented draft classes. I think those trades are always going to be driven by premium positions. So if you look at this year's draft class, you're going to be seeing wide receivers, quarterbacks, and offensive linemen all over the place in the first round. And so if you want to get your guy and get ahead of a run at those positions, you're going to have to move up to do it. And if you look at certain teams picking in the top half of the first round, I'm looking at like the Chicago Bears. They pick at 1 and 9, but then they have 2 more picks the whole rest of the draft. So you have to find teams like that, and you have to find teams like Arizona and Washington who have like 6 or 7 picks in the top 100 or so, and match those up together. I think teams are doing a really good job of understanding what other teams need, who they can work with, and making it happen in a really efficient way, and I think that's led to that.
Luke Easterling does a phenomenal job as we call you all the time to ask about all these players on the big draft board. His mock draft is up at athlonsports.com. You can find it there. Luke, thanks for your help, man. We appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Enjoy the week.
There you go. Luke Easterling. Look, hey, you know what? They do know their stuff, Sly, sometimes. These draft experts. Come on. There's not a guy. Here's the thing: there's not a guy you can mention, and we've talked to these guys a lot, right? There's not a dude you can throw out from the most obscure universities when this is their their job. It's insane the stuff that they'll throw out.
We
there.
could have done another segment, and he could have broke down Winston Reed of Weber State.
1,000%.
Because they know this is all they do.
This is his Christmas, as he put it.
I still need to make you that shirt, football nerd.
That's right.
Yeah.
we gotta get
you got to trademark it.
Hey,
first.
you know what?
Man.
You know what?
I'm in the football nerd club.
Hey, Nate's in here.
I'm not ashamed.
Let's get our boss. We'll get some KSL Sports football nerd T-shirts made. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
When was the last time you went to a theater and watched a movie, JJ? I was just thinking about this.
It's been a minute.
1998. Is that what you're going to say? When did you start working here? That's the last time you saw a movie.
2005. I went and saw the Maverick, the Top Gun.
With Mel Gibson and you're talking about
the new Top Gun
with
What was that? 2022, 21, 22?
That actually might be the last one I saw in the theaters too.
Because that was one I had to see in the theater, but because of COVID and then the writers' strike and the everything strike, there's nothing that's been produced. It's like, I got to go to the theater and see that. So, no, I haven't seen one since.
It just reminded me.
Maverick,
since
I guess
Maverick.
Is what it was called.
And, you know what? That was a good one to go see. Sly, when was the last time? Do you go to movies all the time? Are you a movie guy?
No, man. I made this deal with myself. I'm just like, I want to make my home an oasis. So what are my favorite things? What do we always joke about? Movies. So I built a theater in my house. So I don't got to go anywhere. I just wait for it to come out.
You know what? I already knew the answer to this. Sly's like, I don't want to see anybody at the gym. I barely want to see you two right now.
Yes.
Like the most antisocial answer is
I will laugh
I've
by
built a
myself.
theater.
Yes.
It's called the Megaplex of Sly, and I live there by myself.
For those of you who don't know, Sly is a 90s, 2000s comedy movie expert. He can recite every line of every funny movie they made.
Day. That was my whole
in those
childhood.
2 decades.
We moved from Texas to Seattle when I was a kid. Our car broke down. My sister and my sister's car broke down. We were stopped in Oregon, and we recited word for word Tommy Boy in the diner. That's how we got ourselves through waiting for my mom.
The AC conversation with Manuel. I was just waiting to be in like Alex is Jim Carrey in the Rhino.
Oh yeah,
Ace Ventura. Warm.
See, there's not a. Listen, the funny thing is these are all the movies that we watched growing up. Like, my kids have. I tried to introduce my kids to some of these movies.
They don't even like it.
They don't
what are you
care.
talking about? I think
There's the other
weird
thing
kids.
too, where you. There's one thing where like
who doesn't like this?
No, I know. There's one thing, but then you also watch it too, and you go, "Ooh, I forgot about some of this. Probably should have left that out." My wife's all, "What are you showing them?" I'm all, "It's Anchorman, sweetie. It's a rite of passage."
If you knew what our kids were watching on TikTok, you really wouldn't think
No,
it's that
I know.
big of a
I was
deal.
going to say, but we watched Beavis and Butthead with my kids.
Oh man,
with
now
my oldest two boys.
that and Ren and Stimpy. That and Ren
my
and
gosh,
Stimpy. That
couldn't believe.
we made sure my mom didn't know we were watching that.
See, that's the stuff my dad would always be
idiot.
like, "You idiot." My dad would be like, "We don't watch The Simpsons in this house," and then he's all, "The Simpsons on tonight?" Like it would toggle between that. Like, oh, I'm gonna
Watching The Simpsons on Sunday was the most rebellious thing I could do when I was a teenager.
That was like that's high quality sinning right there.
There you
JJ.
go. I was good at it.
Let me see here. All right, I'm going to give you kind of another. This is a little bit of a would you rather here again, Sly. It feels like that. It's of that same vein. So let's talk a little bit about what some of these guys. We talked about the biggest names so far that are the highest on the draft board. So I'm going to give you the ones that are the guys who are likely to get drafted, or at least probably some of the closest to get drafted. Jackson Powers Johnson out of Corner Canyon, Kingsley Sumataya, Cole Bishop. I'll throw in Luther Ellis. We were just talking about. I'll throw in Jonah Ellis and Sione Vaki because he's kind of on the edge of a lot of people's drafts, and he's kind of this interesting X factor for people. Which I think if you were going to give him a nickname, X Factor would probably be pretty good. Out of all those guys, who's got the most? Again, another 2000s reference. Who's got the most
upside?
Yeah, and just the person that you could go take it to the bank. They're going to have a longer NFL career, and they're going to do well.
Man, that's a really tough question because I really feel like that is situational. Right? If I go into the right situation, I start off the right way, I can make it to my second contract, I can thrive, I can get all of these different things. Those are all factors that permit you to have a longer career. Honestly, these offensive linemen are playing great. These Kelce's to Ryan Jensen, we were just talking about him in the last segment. If Jackson Powers Johnson can get into the right situation, I think he can have a tremendous career. The way this guy plays, short spaces, just really dynamic, long and prosperous. Not just long like some of these backup quarterbacks, right? Like, no, I want to be able to play at a high level for a very long time. I like Jackson Powers Johnson in that situation. Man, I don't know, because I really feel like there's going to be one of these undrafted guys who we're not talking about.
Winston Reed of Weber State.
That's just going to get into a great situation.
He's going to be undrafted, and a lot of people don't know about him, but the NFL people do. Mm-hmm. He was a beast at Weber State, All-American, FCS level. He made play after play after play for them. And there's already precedent. Taron Johnson is killing it in the NFL, right. Weber State. I think Winston Reed is that undrafted guy out of this class here that no one's talking about, who could have not the most successful career of this group, but could surprise people by making a team and then being a very good contributor in the NFL.
Well, and you could be on a really, really good team right off the bat, too, one that's equipped to win immediately, and you add to that, and then people go, we will put your name there at the top of the list.
Or you do it like, say the Steelers draft somebody. Why are the Steelers taking this guy? This guy must be something, right? And so you could get into that resume. But another guy along the Weber State lines that we were talking about that I love, Eddie Heckert.
Yeah.
Right? I love this guy. His smarts, his instincts, he makes things happen. Absolutely love it. I think he's going to be, as far as out of the state of Utah, he and Devon Vele might be the steals of the draft. I love Devon Vele. I'm biased, but just watching him, every time I watch a guy, I'm like, how can I play against this guy? How would I defend this guy? If I was a coach, I was devising a plan, whether it be offense or defense, how would I beat this guy? Devon Vele is one of those guys, and you've seen it towards the end of the season. He just took off. He is so hard to stop if he can get the ball. If you can get him the ball, he's dynamic, right? We had a quarterback situation in Utah. But Eddie Heckert's another one of those guys. He can fit into a lot of different defensive systems and make it happen. And the biggest question was for him, can he go from FCS to D1 and make it happen? He had his best year ever.
Yeah, it was easy. He was immediately the best defender on that team, when he walked in. I mean, especially in the secondary, right?
Those two would be the steals of the draft for me.
What about a guy like Aiden Robbins? Does he have the ability to do something? I mean, he's a guy that, is a 1,000-yard rusher one season at UNLV and then goes into a bad system. I mean, again, if a situation's not good for you, even in college, it was not a good situation to be a running back for BYU last year, and that's where Aiden Robbins finds himself. But he's got this massive body. He isn't necessarily the fastest guy, but is he one of those dudes that could find his way onto a team? I only see that because I had somebody texting me about that, like, what about a guy like Aiden Robbins?
No. And you talked about it, running back position, right? The longevity for that. He's not even starting out at a good pace or at a good place where he can get a jump start. I mean, a literal good running backs, 5 to 6 years in the league. And if you have to work up to even getting a chance, that's taking 2 to 3 years off. So, the longevity of NFL career right now is 2.5 years. And so, no, I don't see that. One, his position is difficult. He doesn't translate to being versatile, to doing special teams and all this other things. Yes, he's a big body, but you would get a free agent route. Literally, he's another one position type of guy in 32 teams that's already depth like that has depth like that. I don't see that translating into a long career, and especially at the NFL level. I think it's more with all of these sub-leagues, right? I think he can have a great effect in the XFL and USFL, that collaboration. What are they, UFL now?
It's the UFL, yeah.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. But there's more opportunities for these guys to shine, get national attention. As far as an NFL running back, I do not see it. One, you come from UNLV. UNLV doesn't have the greatest track record as far as being like a powerhouse or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's not helping you on your resume. Then you go to BYU and you have an even worse year. So he doesn't have that backing for me to being like, hey, that can translate. But again, as I said, you are the author of your own story, so he can make it happen.
Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to chat more about all this. This is all fascinating to me. I mean, we're just basically throwing names at at Sly and making him kind of break down what this could look like here. But that's why we brought you in. We got to be able to do this. Plus, Nate made all this nice video, and you guys made all the nice video for TV. We got to use all of it. By the way, you can stream our conversation, what we're having right now, not just the audio version of it. You can see our mugs on KSLSports.com. You can see us in studio chatting with Sly about all these things, plus a lot of the video that goes along with all these players, too. An enhanced experience listening to the program today. We'll take that quick break. We will come back. We've got more to go around the corner, so stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Do we have the Turd Ferguson thing ready to go? The audio?
Come on, let's get it. All right. No, it's not Norm MacDonald.
Although we could just play Celebrity Jeopardy over the air and probably get better ratings than we get otherwise. Right?
That's funny. It's a funny name.
Yeah.
May he rest. Norm MacDonald. He is a guy who actually has passed away. And you know what?
One of the most unique and funny people.
Well, my favorite thing is when people are like, "Did you know Norm MacDonald was actually pretty funny?" I'm all, settle down. Okay? You start acting like, "Oh, now I'm a big Norm MacDonald fan after he passes away." JJ and Sly and I, we were there, man.
Oh yeah.
Ground zero.
Where were you at
Norm
when
MacDonald?
Norm MacDonald got fired from Weekend Update? Where were you? Why were you defending him then?
I made Sly watch the SB.
I don't know how I didn't see
the
that.
SB joke in the mid '90s about O.J. Simpson. Oh my goodness, it was brutal. And my favorite part is I go, Sly, watch Ken Griffey Jr.'s reaction because Ken Griffey Jr. is mortified by this. And this is like peak mid '90s when Ken Griffey Jr. is wearing like the tuxedo is just that collarless shirt that we used to do at prom.
Yep.
With the single like black button at the top. I'm classy. These frosted tips and this fake tie show you that I'm classy. All right?
Easy on the frosted tips, man.
No, JJ.
We all went through that stage.
Did you have the puka shells too? You had the puka
I
shells?
never wore the shells, but I had the K-Swiss shoes, and I shaved my legs.
Oh
my goodness.
Puka shells and frosted tips with JJ.
That's a great podcast.
We
Puka shells and frosted tips with JJ. Oh my goodness.
Oh man, come in here and dress like I'm in college again.
Oh man.
Be like, and this week, cargo shorts. What you can fit in them.
Oh,
Oh
man.
my goodness. All right.
You can never have enough pockets.
You can never have enough pockets. Sly, real quickly, I want to understand a little bit. Again, I asked earlier in the show, and this is our NFL draft preview show. That's why Sly's in here really burning the calories on all this stuff because we're basically making him our guinea pig on all this. Okay. Oh yes. Hold on. Let's go to the big board.
JJ's picks in.
When the pick came in, because I'm always fascinated to hear the story on how the Steelers ended up being your team because guys you'll talk to are like, I didn't even talk to the Steelers in workouts. Or there's guys who are like, I this team promised me 3 seconds before I get a call that they're going to draft me, and then I see another guy on the phone with them. It's like they're cheating on me on live TV with all this. So tell us where your head was at and how it ended up being that the Steelers took you in the 5th round of the NFL draft.
Man, my draft process was crazy, right? I thought I had like this crazy, like I would be like 2nd, 3rd round. Didn't have the greatest senior year because I went back to school and was just like, let me finish school because I'm not coming back, right? Let me get this degree. And so my senior year was, I had a couple injuries and yada, yada, yada. But I didn't think my draft stock would drop, right? And so like going through the process, one, I didn't know I was invited to the combine. My agent, Sly, we didn't have a...
that voice got higher an
My
hour
favorite
later.
guy.
Hey, man, the madder and more I think about him, the higher the pitch goes. But through the whole process, it was just like I didn't think anybody was interested in me. From my All-Star game to the combine to after pro day to the whole process before the draft, nobody talked to me. I didn't get one conversation. So I'm just like, I don't even know if I'll be able to be accepted on a free agent the way that I felt. So my mind was just spinning, especially before the draft. Didn't know what was going on, but, I still had, all my optimism. I still thought I was like a 3rd round guy at least, 2nd day. Back then it was the 1st and 2nd first day, 3rd and 4th the next day, and then 5, 6, and 7 on the 3rd day. So I thought I was a 2nd day guy. And lo and behold, here comes the 2nd day, and I'm seeing these linebackers taken one after the other, and I'm just like, I know I'm better than that guy. Like, I understand I'm not a 1st-round pick, but this guy, you got this guy in the same conference, same distance. And so I was just spinning. And so that Friday night, man, I was just, like, pissed off. And so, I was a little hungover on Saturday. And so I just put my phone on my chest. And I was asleep, and next thing you know, my phone rings, and it's like
figuratively hungover, right?
Yes.
Right.
Pickle juice. It was all pickle
No,
juice.
just hungover from all the phone calls from the family.
Yeah, I was
right.
just like, I guess
Sly had a little bit too many electrolytes the night before.
And so I put the phone on my chest. The phone rings. It's 412 area code. I have no idea what that is. So I'm like, I'm not answering that. And then I put it down and I look up. I'm like, oh, this is draft day.
I should probably answer phone
answer
numbers
the
that I
phone.
don't recognize.
So I regroup. I take a deep breath, and I answer. And there goes Kevin Colbert. Hey, Sly.
We're trying to reach you about your auto warranty.
Really, though. He calls me. He's like, hey, Sly, this is Kevin Colbert with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hey, would you like to come to Pittsburgh? I'm like, of course. I had no idea. Pittsburgh had all these linebackers. They just drafted 2 the day before. When I should have been drafted, they drafted a couple that day. And I'm just like, there's no way that they want me. There was a whole list. My mom was doing all this investigation. She had all these teams, crossing them off. This.
By
and
the
that.
way, she was more worried about it than you were. I guarantee it. Like the mom love on a day like that must have been
is
wild.
insane.
Crazy.
And so I pick up the phone. I'm talking to literally everybody. Like when my phone rings, I'm like, oh. And then literally everybody pops out from like closets, from like down the hall, from the kitchen, and they, just like what is the little lemurs that look up? That's how everybody was, just right in the living room. Who is it? What is it? And so I talked to Mike Tomlin, talked to Keith Butler, my position coach, and it was just all good from there. Next thing you know, I had a flight literally in the next 30 minutes, and I got to jump on in the morning.
Wow.
And so I was in Pittsburgh
so fun.
in the mini camps literally the next day. It was crazy.
And then just a few months later, those same people popped out of the closets asking for money. Which was
welcome to the NFL, rookie. Yeah,
that's crazy. I've got a great idea for a shave ice stand, but I'm going to need a small investment from you, Uncle Sly.
It's a juice bar, actually. It's a juice bar.
Everybody's got a story. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, my goodness. All right.